gives you a sense of perspective that is just different from what is going on cable TV on any given day.
But can I follow up on something?
Yeah.
Because, you know, you've really done a lot, I think. I mean, you signed 200-plus laws into being, since you're in office.
Right.
You have financial reform has taken place. You got a health care. I mean, you've put 2 women on the Supreme Court. I could go on and on about your accomplishments. And yet the right wing, through Fox News and other outlets, they seem to be hijacking the narrative. Where, on your side, is the narrative? Where is your attack dog to come out and tell the American people, listen, this is what we did?
Joy, that's your job.
Well, I do it.
Let me say this. When times are tough, as they have been, naturally there's going to be a political argument that's going on out there. And, you know, I volunteered for this job. And politics is not beanbag. I mean, politics is a contact sport, and you expect people going at you. And the one thing that does frustrate me sometimes is the sense that we shouldn't be campaigning all the time. You know, there's a time to campaign, and then there's a time to govern. And what we tried to do over the last 20 months is to govern. So on health care or on financial reform, right now we've got a big debate about how we can get small businesses more credit because they really generate more jobs than anybody else. And when you feel as if every single initiative that we're doing is subject to Washington politics instead of, is this good for the country, that can be frustrating. But having said that, look, there are legitimate differences to be had between the parties. I'm not perfect. My administration's not perfect. And a lot of this criticism I try to listen to, and if I think it's fair, then we try to correct it. Now, some of it, I'll grant you, Joy, I tend not to think is fair. And
that's right.
Michelle doesn't think any of it's fair.
No. I want to ask you about the country, too, because,
sure,
you know, seeing you here, and it truly is an honor to have you here as the President of the United States. It does seem as though we are a very divided states of America right now on so many issues.
Right.
And I think even those who did not vote for you felt a hope that there would be a uniting factor when you took office. Are you frustrated that this country still feels so divided and you have not been able yet to bring that unity?
Look, I think that right after the election, there was a sense of hopefulness and unity. I think at the time people didn't understand how bad the economic crisis was going to be. And as a consequence, I think that, you know, the politics of the economic recovery, the steps we had to take to make sure that the banking system didn't collapse, what we had to do for the auto industry so that didn't collapse, a lot of those became controversial. And unfortunately, we live at a time when a lot of times people are thinking about the next election instead of the next generation. My hope is that I've tried to set a tone in the debate that says, look, we can disagree without being disagreeable.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is that the media culture right now loves conflict. And if there's a story about cooperation between the two parties, that story doesn't make the news. What makes the news is somebody who says something as outlandish or outrageous as possible. That's what gets focused on. And I think, frankly, the American people would rather hear a civil debate, but that's not what they're getting a lot of times.
Mr. President, we have Shirley Sherrod, who was a USDA official, who was fired over this racially charged clip that was taken out of context. It was posted on a blog. When you took office, I think a lot of people thought that we were going to get beyond race, but it seems like every single day it's something racially charged. Do you think that we are still in America, America is racist?
Look, I think that we have made so much progress, and I had a conversation with Shirley Sherrod, wonderful woman. She's the first one to acknowledge how much progress we've made. I mean, think about her history and what she went through, her father being murdered, and her growing up in the Jim Crow South, and now she's on the phone talking to the President of the United States, and she had been on the South Lawn for a celebration of federal employees just a couple of weeks earlier. And that's a testament to the progress that we've made. What I do think happened in that situation is that a 24/7 media cycle that's always looking for controversy and oftentimes doesn't get to the facts first generated a phony controversy. A lot of people overreacted, including people in my administration. And part of the lesson that I want everybody to draw is, let's not assume the worst of other people, but let's assume the best. Let's make sure that we get the facts straight before we act. And when it comes to race, let's acknowledge that, of course, there's still tensions out there. There's still inequalities out there. There's still discrimination out there. But we've made progress, and if each of us take it upon ourselves to treat people with fairness and be able to stand in somebody else's shoes and see through their eyes and relate to where they're coming from, that we can make more progress. And when you look at the next generation, interesting, when I talk to Malia and Sasha's friends, they have healthier attitudes around these issues than Michelle and than our generation does, and we have healthier attitudes than previous generations do, and that's the progress that we want to keep on making.
Because you remember, I'm sure you're old enough to remember this movie, but in 1967, guess who's coming to dinner?
I was only 6.
I figured.
Really?
But
the rest of it remember it very well.
I do remember the movie.
Now, do you remember this?
Sidney Poitier he's smooth.
Please, he's the greatest ever. But he says to his father, "You think of yourself as a Negro man, and I think of myself as a man, and that's the difference." Is that still relevant today? I ask you, what are we? Who are we?
Well, we are Americans. We share common hopes, we share common dreams, we share common aspirations. We're going through common struggles. I mean, the fact of the matter is that everybody here, and I look at this audience and it's representative of the country, everybody here is connected in some fashion. And our success and our children's success is tied up together. And so I think most Americans feel that way. But what is still true is that, you know, there's still kind of a reptilian side of our brain, right? That part of our brain that if somebody looks different or sounds different, that there's a part of us that is cautious. And what we have to do is fight against that, and that's part of what Shirley Sherrod was trying to say in the speech. If you actually read the whole speech, she was acknowledging, I have my own biases based on my experiences, but if I am able to look inward and reflect, then I can get beyond my biases. And that's an exercise that all of us have to undergo day in, day out, and it's a constant struggle, and you know, it's something that there's nobody in America who doesn't have to at some point think about their own racial attitudes.
Can I ask
but
you
if we
about
do,
that?
then I think there's no reason we can't overcome it.
To follow up on Whoopi's question, you do not describe yourself as a black president, but that's the way you're described. Your mother was white. Why would it be helpful, or why don't you say, I'm not a black president, I'm biracial?
Well, you know, when I was young and going through the identity crises that any teenager goes through, I wrote a whole book about this.
Yes.
You were
on with us on
and the book came out. You know, part of what I realized was that if the world saw me as African American, then that wasn't something that I needed to run away from. That's something that I could go ahead and embrace. And the interesting thing about the African American experience in this country is that we are sort of a mongrel people. I mean, we're all kind of mixed up.
Yeah.
And now, that's actually true for white America as well, but we just know more about it. And so I'm less interested in how we label ourselves. I'm more interested in how we treat each other. And if we're treating each other right, then I can be African American, I can be multiracial, I can be, you name it. What matters is, am I showing people respect? Am I caring for for other people? That's, I think, the message we want to send.
Well, if you're not sick of us yet, stick around and we'll come back. We'll be right back with President Barack Obama.
Thank you.